This video is kicking off my wedding series. It's one of my favorite things to talk about right now because I'm recently engaged, but I thought I could share some tips along the way, things that I'm learning during this wedding planning process because it can be overwhelming and there's a lot of work involved. Ryan and I got engaged early June. It was so beautiful. It took place on a rooftop. It was very intimate and special because it was a place that we spend a lot of time together, and it was just the most gorgeous moment, and I was so excited to say yes and to look forward to our future together. As soon as we put it out there that we were engaged, texts, phone calls, Facebook messages, everyone wants to know, when are we getting married and where? So right away I got all of those questions and I was overwhelmed because I was thinking, I have no idea. We just got engaged. I'm enjoying this moment. But I realized that people are going to want to know fast, so we did have to get to work. Well, the next day, which was a Saturday, we were heading to Cabo to celebrate one of my girlfriends getting married to her fiance. And so it felt like a little honeymoon for us because we were getting there before the wedding party. But on our way on the plane, we started to write out our guest list, which was more than 250 people. It was a crazy number. So that's where we started. But here are some tips about what I'd recommend to do if you recently just got engaged and you're starting the wedding planning process. First thing, I would make a wedding book. This is mine. And the reason why I did this is because I started to get very overwhelmed with wedding documentation. I was buying all these magazines, I was going to bridal shows. Pretty soon, we no longer had a kitchen table. It was filled with flyers and quotes for photographers and videographers and caterers, all these things that I needed to lock down and start to plan. Well, I narrowed it down by building this book, and in it I have dividers with different sections that I need to start working on, like schedules, guest lists, wedding venue, caterer, all those categories that you are going to have to plan through your wedding. That way everything is just in one place. So I just carry this with me. It's everything. I love it. And on the outside I have some memorabilia from our engagement, which I love because it kind of personalizes this book. It makes it very special. This sign was on the table when Ryan proposed. It just says, "Marry me, Ashley." And this picture was in a vintage picture frame on the table as well. So it's just sentimental. Obviously, I'm not a pro because this is my first time, but I am learning a lot during this process. The first thing that I would recommend is have some dates in mind of when you would like to get married. This could be based on a special month that means something to you, a favorite season, or a date that you share a special memory with your loved one. Keep in mind that sometimes your venue is going to choose your date, and I realized that real fast when I started to call around to book a date, and a lot of venues were already scheduled for weddings. They were booked. So I was forced to look elsewhere. So just be flexible and have an open mind. Maybe pick 3 to 4 dates that would work for you and your fiance to have your wedding. This is the next tip, and it's kind of tough to talk about right when you get engaged, but you have to address the budget. What is your budget? That's going to determine if you're going to have a very small and intimate wedding or if you're going to have a large and elaborate wedding. Once you figure out those numbers, you can designate and determine where that money is going to go towards. The budget's also going to help you figure out how many people you can actually invite to the wedding so that you can feed them, so you can have beverages for them. You have to be able to afford your guest list. Everyone's budget is going to be different. In our case, my family gave me a number and they said, this is what you guys have to spend on the wedding. Then Ryan's family is helping out in certain situations. And then Ryan and I are both going to pick up those small things along the way to make that day special. After you have your budget, start looking for your venue so you can really lock down a date and start the planning process 100%. Venues range in price. Some things are included, some things aren't. Sometimes you're just paying for a structure to have a reception under. Sometimes that structure has tables and chairs and linens that you can rent. You just have to figure out what you can afford. After you figure out your budget, you book your venue, and you have your date on lockdown. Start writing out your guest list and your wedding party because you want to invite them early, or you could in a special way as well. I did do some special little messages to my bridesmaids to get them on board, but I just wanted to make sure that they would be able to travel for that big day that is pretty much a year away. The next big tip is to book your big vendors, or at least have a list in mind. These are your DJs, your florists, caterer, videographer, and photographer. A lot of those big vendors get booked a year in advance as well, so you don't want to miss out on that opportunity to have someone that you really like their work be at your wedding, and you want to secure that date with them as well. So usually there's going to be meetings and contracts involved and down payments. Those are the first tips I'd recommend for your wedding planning process. But another thing, just enjoy the moment. This is such a special time. It's a long time to prepare for one day, but these little details really matter in the end if you want to make something very unique to celebrate with your fiance, husband-to-be, and with all of your loved ones together in one room. Well, that's all I have for you. We'll see you in the next wedding series.